Well, today I'm honored to invite and welcome Joseph and Marissa with us. They are the leaders of Forever Marriage, as you know, and I'm so excited to have you guys on the podcast, just to spend some time with you. I love what Forever Marriage is doing, and so thank you for taking the time to spend with us and be on the Awesome Marriage Podcast. Appreciate it so much.
No,
Thank
thank you so much for
you.
having us.
Yes.
We're looking forward to the conversation.
Oh, me too, me too. So let's just let people know from your perspective, what's a Forever Marriage mindset?
Yeah. So, a forever marriage mindset. I mean, when we think about forever marriage or a forever marriage, we're thinking about the covenant relationship. When
Mm,
God put us together, He put us for a lifetime. He didn't put us in for a couple of years or only when things are going right. He put us in it for the long haul. And in that, when we imagine what a forever marriage mindset looks like and what does it mean? It means that the couple understands that God is the author of marriage.
mm,
And if we value what God has to say, if we value the biblical truth that we find in the Bible and the scriptures, then we know that with what God has put together, no one has the right to redefine it or to end it. And
mm.
Jesus echoes these words in the New Testament. So we really believe that the couple, they value that they are a team in their marriage. They value that they when they face challenges in their marriages, they see those marriages as something that we have to figure out together. And instead of trying to go around our issues, we go through them because God allows such things to happen in our lives, in our marriages, to refine us and to make us more like Christ. So when
Mm.
we imagine that forever marriage mindset, that's what we imagine and encourage couples to adopt.
It's so good. It's so good. And just, that whole deal, because you guys know, and probably why you chose Forever Marriage, the divorce rate, what gets me more than anything are the couples that give up early, that they just have
Mm.
been married a few
Mhm.
years. Because I think, as you guys know, being married 8 years now, you go
Yeah.
through things. And,
Mhm.
there's a lot of times you could say, I'm done and walk
Yeah.
away. But that's not God's plan. And persevering through those things, I think is what builds your confidence, builds your foundation.
Right.
And like
Right.
you said, Joseph, it's doing it together. This is
Yeah.
Right.
it's the two of us together.
Yeah.
So when you guys came into marriage, what was your mindset of marriage?
So it was very similar to the forever marriage mindset. I remember Joseph even jokingly telling me, he said, we're in this forever. Like this, there's no
Yeah.
divorce on
We're
the
stuck
table.
together.
We're stuck together. And I said, okay, because we had done premarital counseling. We both grew up in the church. Unfortunately, I came from a broken home. And so my experience with divorce and seeing my parents go through that was like firsthand, but I didn't want to replicate that. And so I
Yeah.
was more motivated to uh, really do the work to make sure that we had a lifelong healthy marriage, um, with our faith, and also just understanding through the books that we were reading that, okay, this is possible. We can actually do this despite what my background may be. We can make sure that our road ahead is in line with what God wants.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think, like, while I also believe that this was for the long haul, uh, the mindset that I didn't share with Marissa was that um, God is the author and we're going to rely on God.
Mm.
And also, there is community, like, there is a supportive network that we can
Hmm.
plug into. Those two concepts didn't really quite, I guess, fit into my picture of what marriage was going to be. Like, I knew we were going to face challenges, but I
Mhm.
was more so self-reliant and thinking, okay, when things come up, we're going to have to, I'm going to have to fix them, or you're going to have
Mm.
to fix them, as opposed to uh, we have to lean on Christ. Even for me to be the husband that God has called me to be, I have to lean on Christ because in my own strength, I can only do so much. I can last maybe a couple of days. If that, that's all. But
Yes.
I really have to lean on Christ to
Yes.
really be able to forgive, to really be able to be patient, to love, to walk in love. So all those concepts, the first couple, maybe even the first 3 years,
Hmm.
it was a struggle of me trying to do things. and me still trying to exert this little control that I thought I had. And once I learned to surrender, we really started
Mm,
seeing, um, things smoothing out, and things smoothing out, not necessarily that we were without issues or we didn't face any challenges, but we were able to overcome quicker.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I love what you said. You came to that point of surrender because I think for guys, that's a point we have to come to, and I don't think we get there easily. Was there anything in particular that got you over that hump and to say, okay, God, we got to do it your way?
A couple of things. One, I would say, and I give a lot of credit to Marissa, because what she desired most in our relationship, especially in the beginning, was for me to step up into the role of this, the spiritual leader in our household,
Mhm.
to be the one to
Hmm.
initiate going to church, to be the one to initiate praying together, reading the Bible, and so forth. And I didn't, that concept was foreign to me, even though I saw my parents had and they still, I mean, they'll be celebrating 35 years of marriage this year.
That's awesome.
So, like, you're super, super proud of them. But there were some things that we didn't see, or I didn't see growing up. So,
Sure.
filling in into that role, that was a challenge for me. And I think Marissa and I, we butted head for about 2 years. And then I just saw a change in her where she was no longer bringing up those things and concerns, but instead she would say, "Hey, I'm praying for you in these areas."
Hmm.
And to me, I mean, just the Holy Spirit just working
Mhm.
through her to inspire me and to encourage me. And I would say the second pivotal moment is, we went to a marriage conference together. And at that time, I'm still in the mindset that we're gonna figure things out. I don't need to read a book or anything like that. We're going to figure it out. But by the grace of God, I agreed to go to that marriage conference.
Mm.
And something that was said there, I don't remember exactly what it was, just really flipped the switch. And I remember on our way back, we were in an airplane, and typically I cannot read emotion. I get, motion sickness and everything. But I found an ebook, and I forget the name of it. I'm going to try to think about it to recommend to the guys out
Okay.
there. But I remember reading that book while in motion, no motion sickness whatsoever. And I came across a prayer. And I remember reciting that prayer to myself, asking God to equip me to be the husband that He has fashioned me to be. And things just really started changing. After that, I just started
Mm.
seeing plan in place, me having the desire to read the Bible, having the desire to be around people, around men who were married and whom I admired. So just those two pivotal moments were
Mm.
instrumental to my walk and who I am today.
What you said about Marissa's role, and I think Marissa, I think a lot of women don't know what to do in that. It doesn't sound like it. If you did, you finally just said, "I'm going to let the Holy Spirit do this," right? That you
Yeah.
decided and took kind of yourself out of the picture in a way there, I guess.
Right.
So no nagging, no on him all the time, kind of stuff. Just letting the Holy Spirit work and praying for him.
Exactly. And one of the things I would do is just try to model what I expected for our family. So I
Mm.
didn't give up, initiating us to go to church. I didn't give up initiating Bible study. We would carpool together. We carpooled together to work maybe about 5 years.
Hmm.
And I would send the verse of the day to him every morning. And
Yeah.
so, and I was like, okay, I don't know if he's gonna read this, because again, he believed in God, believed
Yeah.
in
Sure.
God.
Yeah.
Um, but we were just at two different levels,
Yeah.
in our spiritual walk with Christ, and I would just send him those verses, and I believe to this day that that was planting seeds
Hmm.
that we have seen be
Take
watered and
root. Yeah.
grow, and yeah, over the years.
Yeah.
So I was getting a little emotional, teary eyed, just listening to Joseph's testimony, because it just shows the power of God,
Hmm.
Yes.
and I just hope and pray anyone listening to this would be encouraged.
And being patient, because
Yes,
you didn't see the results right away,
right.
but you just kept doing it. Right.
Exactly.
It's just trusting God in those situations, because it is easy to get impatient or thinking, okay, God, I prayed this 3 days in a row. Why,
Yeah.
why,
Right.
why
Right.
do you skip the verse today? You
Yeah.
know, yeah, just being patient with it. I want to go back to just one thing that you said early, Marissa. I didn't get a chance to say something about. You said going into this, you guys, the commitment was there's no divorce, period.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think that's so huge, because I'm not sure every couple goes into marriage with that mindset. It's like, we're going to
Mhm.
work at it. We're going to give it everything we've got, but we can have a foot out the door if we want.
Yeah.
And I think making that commitment, there's no divorce, which we did, uh, made us work and go through things.
Mhm.
And instead of just, because there's a lot of times you can bail, but
Yeah.
that's not what you want,
No.
not in the
Right.
big picture.
No.
You know,
Exactly.
so what other types of marriage mindsets do you see in couples early in marriage?
Yeah, a lot, and destructive ones.
Yeah.
And we like to call them like marriage myths. So people come into marriage with this false idea of marriage, and largely, especially, we love to talk to the millennial couple because their experiences are our experiences.
Mhm.
Like what Marissa said, a lot of us come from broken homes, and in coming from those broken homes, the ideal couple, or the couple that we have grown to admire,
Mhm.
is the sitcom couple,
Mhm.
the husband or wife on television. And
Mhm.
that's for the most part, that's a horrible example of a
Yes.
marriage unit, but that's all we have to
Yeah.
aspire to.
Yeah.
So, some of those myths or those mindsets we bring are: marriage is supposed to make me happy, or
Mhm.
marriage is supposed to complete me or
Mhm.
heal my brokenness. And if that's what we're bringing into marriage, or how we're coming into, that's the idea that we're bringing into marriage, then surely marriage is going to disappoint us, because you realize after the honeymoon phase, the things that that really drew you two together are now starting to become an annoying habit, or
Yeah.
some things that you can't stand. And like you said, Dr. Kim, and then that gives us a license to say, you know what, I thought that this is what marriage was going to do,
Mhm.
but since it's not, now this is license for me to walk away. Like, you're leaving that back door open for me to walk out that door. And Hollywood, especially as well, because almost every day you see another Hollywood couple divorcing, but it was such an extravagant marriage when they were when they
Oh,
married,
yeah.
they came together, the commitment that they said they had for one
Mhm.
another. But so that kind of shapes our mindset
Yep.
and thinking that, yeah, when things don't happen, and me believing, I think all it takes is me believing that I chose the wrong spouse, and then that's enough to justify me walking away.
Yeah, I feel
Absolutely.
like it's desensitizing. Like as you were
Yeah.
talking, it was like, what's that word?
Mm.
Desensitizing us, because when we see these celebrity couples, when we see our favorite sitcom,
Yeah. Couple.
couple getting divorced after 20 years or
Mm.
after even 15 years,
Yeah.
there's something in us or in a lot of people who's like, oh my goodness, I never expected that
Yeah.
from
Hmm.
them.
But
What is
it's
going on?
but
Like,
it's okay because they were not
exactly,
happy,
exactly.
right?
So we make excuses for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. I think our culture is so much wanting everything to be happy, stuff like that. I agree. And I think when you go into marriage thinking that's going to make you happy, are there happy times? Absolutely. But
Right.
not,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you can't depend on marriage to do that. You've got to let God
Yeah.
work in your life. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think those are some definitely things that I see people have, and it's just that unrealistic expectation that you go in with. Because as long as Nancy and I've been married, I can't meet every need she has. I can't
Right.
Hmm.
do all that, and if she had depended on me to do that, it would not have worked out well.
Right.
If she was able to depend on God to do what God wanted to do, and then God expecting God to equip me to do what God wanted me to do, and I think
Yeah.
that's what we have, because we just can't do everything.
Hmm.
And I
Exactly.
think sometimes, like you were saying, the struggle you had just is we kind of, as guys, we think we're supposed to. I
Yeah.
mean, I really
Hmm.
can't. I can fix everything else in the world. Why in the world can't I fix this deal here too?
Right. Right.
And so that's good. Really good stuff. So, what are some of culture's biggest challenges to marriage overall, and especially to millennials?
And I know we touched a little bit on, coming from broken homes, but also I think that this idea of for better or for worse, it's more like a saying. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's really a
We
belief
believe it.
yet. You know, we
Hmm.
say it during the vows,
Yeah.
but honestly, for our generation, I believe we grew up just being told to do what makes you happy, following your heart. If that doesn't work for you, okay, there's plenty of other options here. If that school, you don't like that degree, okay, jump to another degree. Like,
Yeah.
we haven't been taught really like what grit looks like, what
Mhm.
sticking it out looks like when it's healthy for us, when it's going
Wow.
to teach good principles in us. And so when it comes to longevity in marriage, or even challenges, um, and hardship, I don't know if we're prepared. We're
Hmm.
not prepared because every other aspect of our lives, our
Yeah.
parents pretty much told us, or society told us,
Yeah.
like, oh, that's okay, leave that behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go leave that person, or go leave that job, or go leave that community and find something better.
Yeah.
Find something that serves you
Hmm.
better. And
Hmm.
so it always goes back to like us
Hmm.
and me, and so it breeds this self-centeredness.
Yeah.
And so in marriage, of course, we're going to bring that same mindset.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure. That's so good. Yeah, and we point at the other person instead of looking at ourselves, you know. If that person was who I wanted them to be, then I would be happy in this
Yeah.
marriage,
Right.
you
Mhm.
know. And so
Such a
Marissa, well, one thing I wanted to ask you, you came from a broken home, and I
Mhm.
see people in counseling that go both ways. Some that is to them, like, I'm going to make my marriage work, and others, they just repeat the cycle. What
Hmm.
was in you that made you say, I'm not going to repeat that cycle. I'm going to do something different?
I believe it was just the Lord Himself,
Hmm.
honestly, because I woke up one day, maybe 2 years into marriage, and I said, I really felt that that pull, like, you really have to be, not be a voice for other couples. But going into marriage, going into that engagement phase, there was just something there. And I believe it was the relationship I had with Christ that was really encouraging me and motivating me. Sometimes a little too much pressure on myself,
Hmm.
but I believe it was my relationship with Christ that was just really encouraging me to look at the text, look at the scriptures, and to try to find ways, without relying on ourselves, to really show what marriage is about.
Hmm.
Because I think I was also seeing in our society and amongst our peers who were young like us getting divorced, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh my goodness, like this is really happening around
Yeah.
us as well. And
Yeah.
so how can our marriage, how can we be a role model for others who may not have that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the whole mindset of we're gonna do something different, and we're gonna,
Hmm.
you know, because I think we do. I think as Christian couples, people look at us, they want to see something different, and if
Yeah.
they don't, we're probably not doing what God wants us to do
No,
in those
we're not being
situations at
good
all.
salespeople.
No, not
um,
exactly.
Something else I wanted to touch on as you were talking,
Hmm.
as to something else that is challenging marriages today. I think is it's like we're in increasingly anti-Christ society. Like day by day, we're becoming more and more anti-Christ, anti-biblical principles, anti anything that Christ has to say. Now we believe in everything else. We believe in the universe and the spirit and all these
Right.
things,
Hmm.
Yeah.
but we are against what Christ has to say, and we look at these ideals. Um, as outdated or
Hmm.
oppressive and things like that. And yes, truly, it is true that some of these ideas have been abused throughout
Absolutely.
generation, but this is the human abuse. This is the human element. It's not the godly element. So I think we do need to center marriages, and center everything else about
Hmm.
ourselves unto Christ again. Because as
Hmm.
you were saying, that it was Christ who empowered you and gave you that idea that in order for you to be able to break maybe a generational curse or break this divorce cycle in you is by relying on me,
Hmm.
and I think that's how we have to approach. If we're trying to be the change that we want to see, that change is found in Christ, in
Mhm.
what He has outlined and what He has already, uh, uh, won, and how He's going to empower us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's so good because we look, working with couples in counseling, and couples look so many different places to try to find that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's all, my experience is it's 100% empty every place they go. Maybe temporary, kind of makes them feel better for a little bit,
Yes.
Right.
but
Yes.
there's not the depth of when we really see Christ and
Yeah.
put him in the center of our marriage. And I agree. That's a big fight, I think, that all of us have that believe in marriages like God intended,
Hmm.
in a culture that is just not really wanting to hear that. And
Yeah.
so I think we've got to keep doing the message
Yeah.
Definitely.
over and over and over. Um, so, what ways do you feel like they are there to overcome some of those challenges, overcome some of those myths, to fight back? Really?
Mm.
Yeah. I was, so if I can answer your question, Dr. Kim,
Yes.
by going back to another challenge, and then I'll kind of come back.
Sure.
Is another challenge I think that we face is isolation. We
Mm.
tend to do marriage just and this was a mindset I brought into marriage as well, where it's Marissa and I. And true, it is Marissa and I, but there is a trusted network of people or a support network that I have to
Mm-hmm.
tap into. So that isolation is really the devil's playground. I mean, he loves us cornered. He loves Marissa and I to not to be plugged in with anyone else, because now all he has to do is to turn me against her and her against me, and now we're
Hmm.
attacking each other instead of attacking the issue. Whereas when we plugged in into a network,
Yeah.
we're seeing success stories. We're seeing common issues played out over and over, and those are only there to encourage us, to empower us, and to really allow us to believe that what we're facing, we can overcome too, because now maybe we have heard another couple
Mm-hmm.
sharing their testimony of how they overcame a certain challenge.
Right.
So I guess coming back full circle to your question,
No,
Dr.
but I
Kim.
think it's so important. We learn from each other, and
Yeah,
and it's so
yeah,
encouraging for people. I think when sometimes if someone comes in with a really really big issue in counseling, and so many times I say, "Do you think we're hopeless?" And I'll go, "No," because I've worked with people with very similar things, and
yeah,
yes, God can heal anything.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so I think how do we combat this then? You got to get plugged in.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
got to get plugged in, and the math is not, you know, like when we think about marriage and how God designed marriage, it is not mysterious, right? It is not like He tried to make it mystical and put in some loopholes that we have to jump through. It's really simple, but in its simplicity doesn't mean that it's hard. But so what in how we have to overcome it is the foundation is you got to get plugged in into His body, right?
Yeah.
Because Christ is the head, but He has also given us a body, and in that body that we interact with one another, we empower one another. So you got to get plugged into your local church. I mean, it is so imperative.
Mm-hmm.
You serve in your local church, because a lot of us, we have the mentality that we go to church to gain something. When we're
Yeah.
evaluating what church to go to, so, well, what does that church have to offer me? They'll have
Yes.
this
Right.
ministry, or that
Mm-hmm.
ministry, and this ministry. But I think the reverse is that what we're actually called, how we're actually called to do church, is where we see how we can serve in our local church. We see what we can give in our local church. So you actually serving and being an active member of your church, you're able to build those relationships. You're able to be surrounded with people who have similar values, people who love marriage, people
Yeah.
who love God, and that
Right.
just empowers you.
Right. And then it also helps you see the for better and for worse. If you are
Mhm.
in a community that is healthy, of course, and transparent, you will be able to walk and do life with other couples, or even get a spiritual mentor, or if it's a wife, maybe you just have another wife, or if it's a husband, you have another husband, but you're able to see the good and the bad. Like, okay,
Hmm.
this is how I worked through this challenge, and this is how I overcame it. And so that's what we have done with Forever Marriages. That's why Forever Marriages exists, because we wanted to provide a way for couples to see and do life with other.
Mhm.
And that's like the number one thing that we hear. I don't
Yeah,
have married
I don't.
friends. It's
Yeah,
so hard to get married friends. I want a community of
Yeah.
people, a community of couples. And so, of course, we're on the online space, but we also have in-person meetups as well, because we understand the power of community and really sharing and doing life with one another to encourage one another.
yeah.
It's so good. So what would someone's listening and they're saying, God, that makes so much sense. I want community. What's their first step?
Well, I would first define community. You know, for us, our definition is a supportive network. You know, people who love God, honor marriage, and love both you and your spouse. But your definition may be different. So I encourage the couple listening, or the husband or wife, or the engaged person listening, is to really define community for yourself. And then understand and start looking at what you want to gain from your community, because everyone's has a different idea
Mhm.
of what community is, and why. What's your why? You know, is it to have someone to brainstorm with? Is it to just hang out and do couple trips with? You know, what do you want to get out of this community? And once you understand that and define that, I would really pray for wisdom. Pray for wisdom, in that God would help direct you in the way that you should go. Where should I start finding that mentor or that coach or that counselor? Where should I start looking for couple friends? And he will guide you. That was
Yeah,
my prayer in the first
Mhm.
2 years of marriage, is, Lord, I know that you honor community. You
yeah,
love when we're in fellowship with one another. Lord, I really desire to have couple friends.
yeah,
At that time in our lives, we were 24 and 27. We were the first of our peers to get married, the first of our siblings to get married.
Mm.
We didn't have married friends.
yeah,
So we're praying.
Yeah.
I was praying on our behalf. Lord, show me, show us. And
yeah,
Lord showed me Forever Marriages. He said, no,
yeah,
you're gonna create your
yeah,
own community. And I'm not saying that for everybody,
yeah,
but sometimes you have to build
yeah.
and go out and take that leap of faith and put yourself out there.
Hmm.
And that's something you may have to do every now and then, because right now we are in that stage where we are praying for community because we're in a new surrounding. And
Yes.
although we are connected to people online, but there's also so much value in face to face
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
conversation and breaking bread and just loving on each other and encouraging one another. So you may find yourself in that situation every now and then
Sure.
where you're searching.
Yeah, and some families move a lot, and
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is a process. Continue to do that every time. I love what you said, Marissa, though, about really defining what you want of community. I think that's important, and I really never had thought about that before, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody says, "Well, yeah, you need community," and so you go, okay, I'll go find a group, but it may not. They may be totally different than what you are looking for.
yeah,
So
Right.
spending time praying and letting God kind of lead you, or maybe letting your pastor know, "Hey, this is kind of what we're looking for." Do you know some other couples that
Yeah.
would be wanting to do that, just to begin to take those steps? But I love the idea of one of the small groups that I love that's in our church is their common deal is photography.
yeah,
So they meet, they have
Ooh,
their time together, and then they go shoot film.
nice.
Yeah, and it's just, and they do it together and they have community
yeah.
that way. So I think there's so many um, different ways you can do community and connect with people, and having God as a part of that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's good. Um, so what about singles growing
Mhm.
God's like community? What what would you say about that?
I mean, I think like I definitely agree with Marissa, and then even for them to define what that looks like.
Mhm.
But I would say like, what you're looking for is genuine relationships.
Mhm.
And I think the only way to truly do that is to put yourself out there. It's risky business because we're people and sometimes we hurt one another,
Mhm.
but you have
Yeah.
to put yourself out there. And um, like as we said earlier, the easiest way to do that, to find the commonalities, is to be active in your church community. So if there are small groups, as you said, be a part of a small group, and you may shop around. I mean, sometimes
Sure.
the small group you join is not the
Right.
best fit, and that's okay. I mean, I don't think there's
Absolutely.
anything wrong with saying, you know what, this is not the best fit, but don't give up. Continue to search for that best fit, and I think, God, what God honors is that desiring heart. If your heart is desiring something, especially something that is aligned with His values, He will give you that.
Yeah,
And so I think,
absolutely.
as long as you desire that, put yourself out there, and then also like service. Like service is at the core of our lives, especially as Christians. So also like serve in your local community,
Hmm.
because there you're also able to find people who have similar values, things that you both appreciate,
Yeah.
and get out there and meet people. Like,
Yeah.
we have to leave the virtual space. And I know it's a little bit more challenging, especially depending where you live, but we have to get out there and be face to face with people.
Hmm.
I think so. And I think, what you said is important too, Joseph, is if you go to a group and it doesn't fit, it is okay to leave. It's okay
Yeah,
to say this, and you don't have to say anything to them. You don't say you're a bad group. No,
yeah,
you can just know that it's not for you and continue to pray, because I totally agree. If God's put that desire in our heart,
yeah,
he's gonna fulfill it.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, everything you guys are doing, Forever Marriage is awesome. You're helping so
Hmm.
many people. I think it's interesting that since you guys just moved, that you're kind of having to go through and do some of the things that we're talking about today,
yeah,
which is cool for people to know. It's something we all can face from time to time.
Yeah.
yeah.
Forever, and you
We're
don't
seeing
get.
if this actually works, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
No, it works, folks.
It does. So, final question: what are you guys loving about your marriage today?
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah, I think really we're loving the friendship aspect of our marriage. Like we
Mm,
have been together for 12 years. And our friendship was founded on friendship. I'm sorry, our marriage was founded on friendship. And so we cultivated this friendship early on, but as you know, like life has its ways, becoming parents, serving in ministry together, moving 1,000 miles away. Like we have to be so intentional, much more intentional nowadays to build our friendship. But we could talk about everything and anything. We have each other's backs. We just enjoy being with each other, being each other's presence, and a lot of that has to do with the spiritual intimacy that we have developed over the
Mm,
years. It didn't happen overnight. I said years. Okay, so
yeah.
we continue to put work into that, and we talk a lot about spiritual intimacy in our ebook, A Forever Marriage Mindset, because we believe it is the
The
foundation.
foundation.
That is
sure.
the foundation. And that really breathes life into your friendship, and being able to really see the deepest parts of each other's hearts.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's transformative, and in that, like, the couple listening, we want to encourage you that, yeah, we fight too. Like, we have challenges and we go through things, but that friendship grounded in that spiritual intimacy, like, us seeking God together as a couple,
Hmm.
allows us to bounce back quicker, right? Allows us to have a little bit more grace towards one another,
Yeah.
allows us to be in those moments, instead of, leading with, my emotion or how I feel about the situation, to pause and be patient and
Mm,
actually say a prayer to God, like, God, help me in this situation. And that's the beauty about this, because at the end of the day, and we remind each other often that, hey, we're a team. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
it's us against whatever else that we are facing. And sometimes it's hard to see that, and we want to
sure.
acknowledge that for couples.
Yeah.
But the more that, you cultivate that friendship, the more that you seek the better, or the best in your spouse, the more that you're able to see that, hey, we can overcome anything, because together, we're a team. We are a dynamic duo,
Hmm.
and God empowers that.
I love that. I love that. I love the dynamic duo. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Put a little Batman in there.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, you guys are doing a great job. People can find you at forever-marriage.com.
with the S, forever
for marriages. Yeah,
marriages.com. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
And I was looking, I told them I was looking at the website before we came live, and it's a great website. You
Thank
can
you.
find out everything they're doing and resources. And so encourage you to go and check that out. Check out the ebook, all those things that they're doing. It's really incredible. Joseph, Marissa, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I know God's going to continue to bless your ministry, and we look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Dr. Kim.
much.
God bless.
God bless.